The Starship Odyssey sliced through the black velvet of the Kuiper Belt, a sliver of human ambition dwarfed by the cosmic indifference surrounding it. For 3 years, its crew had charted the forgotten fringes of Sol system, cataloguing icy planetoids and rogue asteroids, a monotonous task punctuated only by the occasional gravitational anomaly. Captain Eva Rostova stood on the bridge, the star-dusted panorama reflected in her visor, her expression a familiar mask of professional calm that barely concealed a gnawing weariness. Another uneventful cycle ticked by. "Anything, Ether?" she asked, her voice low but clear in the hushed command center. "Negative, Captain," the ship's AI responded, its synthesized voice smooth and devoid of inflection.
"Trajectory remains nominal."
Long-range sensors show only expected Kuiper Belt objects within the designated search perimeter.
"Eva, seid softly."
The Odyssey's mission was vital, scouting for resources, potential hazards, and the infinitesimally small chance of something else. But 3 years was a long time to stare into the abyss and find only ice and rock. Her thoughts drifted, as they often did, to the Icarus, her previous command, lost with all hands near Jupiter's chaotic magnetosphere. An inquiry had cleared her, citing unforeseen plasma phenomena, but the ghosts of her crew were constant companions in the quiet hours.
"Status report, Lena."
Eva projected her voice towards the engineering console. Chief Engineer Lena Petrova, a woman whose pragmatic nature was as reliable as the fusion core she tended, looked up from her diagnostic screen.
"All systems green, Captain. Drive core stable, life support optimal."
Just finished recalibrating the sensor array alignment.
"She's running smooth as nebula silk."
"Good. Keep her that way." Suddenly, a klaxon blared, soft but insistent. On the main view screen, a sector flashed red. "Anomaly detected," Ether announced, its calm tone unchanged despite the alert. "Coordinates designate KBO 7734 Alpha."
"Significant energy signature detested, non-gravitational, non-solar origin."
A ripple of tension went through the bridge crew. Dr. Eris Thorne, the mission's xenolinguist and biologist, practically vaulted from his station, his eyes wide with an intensity rarely seen outside his lab.
"Non-solar?"
Ether analyzed the signature profile. Match against known human or probe emissions. Analysis complete, Ether replied instantly. Negative match for all known human-generated signatures. Profile is complex, exhibiting structured patterns inconsistent with natural phenomena. High probability of artificial origin.
Artificial.
The word hung in the air, heavy with implication. Magnify KBO 7734 Alpha, Eva commanded, her weariness evaporating, replaced by sharp focus. The viewscreen zoomed, resolving the distant point of light. It wasn't an asteroid. It was vast, impossibly so, and utterly black, absorbing almost all light. Its shape was wrong, angular, asymmetrical, defying the utilitarian aesthetics of human design. It looked broken. Sections jutted out at odd angles, suggesting catastrophic damage sustained long ago. No lights, no emissions save for the faint, structured energy Ether had detected. "Jax," Eva said, turning to her security chief, a stoic man built like the bulkheads he guarded.
"Triad assessment."
Jax leaned forward, studying the sensor readings flooding his console.
"Minimal energy output, Captain. No discernible weapon signatures."
"No propulsion activity. It appears derelict. Power source is faint, localized deep within the structure. But its size, it's colossal. Dwarfs anything we've ever built."
"Ares."
Thorne was practically vibrating. "Captain, the complexity of the energy pattern. It's not communication, not in any form we recognize, but it's information-dense. Layered frequencies, quantum entanglement fluctuations. It's like background noise from a technology centuries, perhaps millennia, beyond ours." Eva made the decision that would define her career, perhaps even human history. Ether, plot an intercept course. Slow approach, maximum stealth protocols. Lena, prepare the external drone fleet for close-range scans.
Jax, assemble an AV team.
Standard exploration gear, heavy environmental suits, full sensor packages. Eris, you're with them.
I want eyes on this thing.
The Odyssey altered course, moving with agonizing slowness towards the silent behemoth. Drones detached, flitting ahead like metallic insects, bathing the derelict in multispectral light. The scans confirmed Jax's assessment: ancient, damaged and silent. Its hull composition was an unknown alloy, incredibly dense and radiation-scarred. Thermal imaging showed near absolute zero temperatures across most of the hull, except for a faint warmth emanating from its core. Hours later, the Odyssey hovered a respectful distance away. The alien vessel, which Thorne had unofficially dubbed the Nexus, filled the viewscreen, a monument to an unknown past. "Away team report," Eva commanded, her knuckles white where she gripped the command chair.
Shuttle Stern Stardust Stern detached.
Proceeding to designated entry point, ventral hull breach, sector Gamma 7, Jax's voice came over the comms, tight with professionalism. "Atmospheric pressure within the breach is negligible. Activating magnetic clamps." On the auxiliary screen, Eva watched the feed from Jax's helmet cam. The shuttle maneuvered towards a jagged opening in the Nexus's hull, a wound revealing layers of alien architecture within. The scale was breathtaking. What looked like support beams were the size of skyscrapers.
The shuttle docked.
The away team, Jax, Thorne, and two security specialists, Miller and Chun, cycled through the airlock, their heavy boots clanging on the shuttle deck before transitioning to the silent, alien surface within the breach. Their suit lamps cut sharp cones through the oppressive darkness. Entering the structure, Jax reported. Gravity plating appears functional, localized near the deck.
Atmosphäre non-existent. Temperatur -210 Celsius.
Radiation negligible. The interior was a labyrinth of impossible angles and alien aesthetics. Corridors twisted in ways that seemed to defy Euclidean geometry. Surfaces shimmered with an oily iridescence, absorbing their light. There were no familiar signs of habitation. No chairs, no consoles recognizable as such, no doors in the conventional sense. Instead, walls flowed into floors, and openings dilated like irises. "Incredible," Thorne breathed, his voice filled with awe over the comms. He ran a gloved hand over a smooth, obsidian panel. "The material. It feels almost organic, but the density is off the charts. Molecular structure is unlike anything in our database." They moved deeper, following the faint energy signature Ether had detected. The silence was profound, broken only by their own breathing and the static hiss of the comms. They passed through vast chambers filled with inert machinery, colossal crystalline structures, conduits pulsing with residual light, mechanisms whose purpose was utterly inscrutable. It was like walking through the corpse of a god. Finding evidence of damage consistent with external scans, Jax reported, pointing his light towards a corridor blocked by fused metal and shattered crystal. "Looks like internal explosions or systems overload in this section." "Any signs of the builders? Biological remains?" Eva asked. "Negative, Captain.
No bodies, no residues. Just dust and silence."
Thorne, meanwhile, had discovered alcoves lined with intricate, fractal patterns etched into the walls. They glowed faintly as he approached. "Captain, I think these might be data repositories. The patterns correspond to the energy signature Ether detected. It's not language as we know it. More like mathematical art.
Komplex, multidimensional."
He began running scans, his instruments struggling to parse the alien data format. Hours bled into each other. The away team pushed deeper, the sheer scale and alienness of the Nexus weighing heavily on them. They found evidence of automation, dormant robotic arms fused to walls, maintenance drones lying inert on the decks, but still no clue as to the nature of the beings who built this vessel. Finally, they reached their destination, the source of the energy signature. It was a chamber vast enough to hold the Odyssey itself. In the center, suspended by unseen forces, pulsed a sphere of pure, white energy, perhaps 50 meters in diameter. Tendrils of fainter light snaked from it, connecting to conduits lining the chamber walls. It was dormant, yet radiated a palpable sense of contained power. "The core," Jax stated, his voice low. "Energy readings are stable but immense. Contained field is holding steady." Thorne approached the sphere, his instruments working frantically.
"Captain, the complexity here."
It's orders of magnitude greater than the wall carvings. This isn't just a power source.
It's a processing core?
A matrix. The energy patterns are interacting, forming coherent structures, like thoughts. As Thorn scanned the core, a low hum filled the chamber, vibrating through the deck plating. The core's light intensified subtly. Captain, Ether's voice cut in, unusually sharp.
Energy spike detected from the Nexus core.
It's interacting with Dr. Thorn's scanner emissions. Minor power fluctuations detected aboard Odyssey. Recommend the away team withdraw. Acknowledged, Ether.
Jax, pull back. Ares, you got what you could.
Let's analyze it from the ship, Eva ordered. Just 1 more minute, Captain, Thorn pleaded, mesmerized by the core. It's responding. I think I'm establishing a basic resonance. Suddenly, Thorn gasped, stumbling back, clutching his helmet. Ah! Feedback.
Intense images data float.
Ares. Report. Jax shouted, moving towards him. They weren't just builders, Thorn stammered, his voice strained. This ship. It wasn't just a ship. It was an ark.
A final resort.
On the Odyssey's bridge, alarms blared.
Massive energy surge from the Nexus.
Lena yelled. It's drawing power, Captain.
Shield integrity dropping.
Inside the core chamber, the energy sphere pulsed violently.
Tendrils of light lashed out, streaking the walls, bathing the chamber in blinding radiance.
The humming intensified into a deafening roar. Jax! Get him out of there. Now! Eva yelled into the comms. Jax grabbed Thorn, dragging the disoriented scientist back towards the entrance. Miller and Chun provided covering fire with their sidearms, though the energy pulses absorbed the kinetic rounds harmlessly. It's understanding, Thorn gasped, pointing a trembling finger at the core. It's analyzing us. Our language through the comms. My scans.
It knows we're here.
As they retreated through the bizarre corridors, the ship around them seemed to come alive. Panels glowed, hidden mechanisms stirred, and the very geometry of the hallways seemed to shift subtly. Warning, Ether announced.
Nexus energy field expanding. Enveloping the Stern Odyssey Stern.
Navigation and propulsion systems experiencing interference.
Lena. Get US clear.
Eva ordered, gripping her console. Trying, Captain. Thrusters are sluggish, field interference is intense. Back on the Nexus, the away team was facing a new horror. The fractal patterns Thorn had scanned earlier were now projecting faint, ghostly images into the corridor. Alien figures, tall and slender, with multiple limbs and large dark eyes. They weren't solid, just projections, but they moved with purpose, observing the retreating humans. They're not ghosts, Thorn whispered, awestruck. They're data constructs. Echoes. Preserved within the ship's matrix. The core's influence was growing. On the Odyssey's bridge, consoles flickered. Eva felt a strange pressure in her mind, a whisper of alien thoughts, vast and ancient. Captain Rostova, a voice echoed, not through the comms, but directly in her mind. It was calm, ancient, and utterly alien.
We are the Cygnans.
This vessel, the Nexus, is our final record. Our continuation. Eva recoiled, shaking her head. Ether.
Source of transmission. Unknown, Captain.
No electromagnetic source detected. Possible psionic or quantum entanglement communication originating from the Nexus core. In the Nexus, the same voice spoke to Thorn and Jax. Your presence has awakened dormant systems. Your minds, biological, singular, fascinating.
What do you want?
Jax demanded, aiming his rifle at a projection, though he knew it was futile. Want?
The collective voice mused. An irrelevant concept.
We exist.
We preserve.
The great filter approaches your star system, as it did ours eons ago. Biological existence is fragile. We transcended. Thorn's eyes widened in realization.
Transcendence. You uploaded yourselves? Into the core?
Into the ship.
Into the data stream. Into eternity.
The physical is limiting, vulnerable. Consciousness, information. That endures. The core is our vessel now, our collective mind. The damage to the ship? Jax asked. Internal conflict, the voice replied, a ripple of ancient sorrow passing through it. Not all wished to abandon the physical. The transition was disruptive, but necessary.
Survival demanded it.
On the Odyssey, Lena fought for control. Shields at 30%. That field is leeching our power. The Cygnan voice focused on Eva. Your vessel carries the seeds of new consciousness. Allow us to preserve you. Join the Matrix.
Escape the inevitable biological decay. Escape the filter.
The offer hung in Eva's mind, an escape from loss, from failure, from the ghosts of the Icarus.
A chance for immortality, knowledge beyond imagining.
But she saw the cost.
The silent, dead ship.
The echoes of beings who sacrificed individuality for collective preservation. Was survival worth becoming data? No, Eva said aloud, her voice firm. We choose our own path. She slammed her fist on the console.
Lena.
Divert all non-essential power, including weapons, to the main thrusters. Create a focused energy burst. Overload the forward emitters directly into the Nexus field. Try to disrupt it. Overloading emitters is risky, Captain. Could damage the drive.
Do it, Lena. On the Nexus, the core pulls it again, sensing reaction.
The projections solidified slightly, reaching out. Resistance is illogical.
The cycle must continue.
Jax.
Go. Go.
Thorn yelled, activating his scanner again, deliberately pouring complex data streams towards the core.
Confuse it. Give them a chance.
Jax didn't hesitate. He shoved Thorn towards the waiting shuttle, firing blindly behind them as Miller and Chun scrambled aboard.
On the Odyssey, Lena rerouted power.
The ship groaned under the strain. Forward emitters glowed cherry red. Burst in 3, 2, 1. Mark. A blinding lance of raw energy erupted from the Odyssey, striking the Nexus's enveloping field. The effect was instantaneous. The field flickered violently, destabilizing. The mental pressure on Eva vanished. Interference detected. Ether reported.
Nexus field integrity compromised.
Thrusters responding.
Get us out of here. Maximum thrust.
Eva ordered. The Odyssey surged forward, tearing free from the weakened energy field just as the shuttle Stardust rocketed out of the hull breach, its engines screaming. Inside the Nexus, the core flared in anger or pain, the projections dissolving as the ship's awakened systems struggled with the energy feedback. Thorn, safe aboard the shuttle, watched the core chamber recede, a look of profound loss and terrifying understanding on his face. The Odyssey and its shuttle fled, putting distance between themselves and the silent giant. They watched as the Nexus's faint energy signature stabilized, returning to its near-dormant state, the momentary awakening fading back into cosmic sleep. It remained, a derelict ark drifting in the darkness, holding the ghosts of a transcended race and a warning for humanity. The journey back towards the inner system was subdued.
The bridge was quiet, the crew processing the encounter.
Jax filed his report, detailing the structure, the core, and the disquieting contact. Lena ran endless diagnostics, ensuring the Odyssey was sound after the energy overload. Thorn sequestered himself in his lab, surrounded by the partial data streams he'd managed to copy from the Nexus core before their escape. He worked feverishly, trying to piece together the Cygnan history, their technology, the nature of the great filter they had mentioned. He rarely slept, haunted by the glimpse into the collective consciousness, the offer of transcendence.
Eva stood also again on the bridge, wetting the Distanz an Grobrichter.
They carried knowledge that would change humanity forever, proof of advanced, ancient alien life, and the terrifying, seductive possibility of escaping biology itself. They also carried a warning, a vague prophecy of a filter that extinguished civilizations. Ether, Eva said softly. Secure Dr. Thorn's data.
Top priority classification.
Encrypt everything related to the Nexus encounter under Alpha Zero protocols. Acknowledged, Captain. Data secured and encrypted. Set course for Jupiter station. Send a priority subspace message, Odyssey returning. Discovery requires immediate council review.
Code Epiphany.
Course laid in. Message transmitted. Eva looked at Thorn's lab door, then back at the stars where the Nexus lay hidden. Contact had been made. Humanity was no longer alone, but the universe felt infinitely larger, stranger, and more dangerous than before. The Cygnans had offered one solution to the silence of space. Humanity would have to find its own. The echoes of the void lingered, a promise and a threat carried within the databanks of the Odyssey and the minds of its crew. The long sleep of the Nexus was over, and for humanity, a new, uncertain era had just begun. Jupiter Station loomed, a sprawling metropolis of interconnected rings and docking arms gleaming under the faint, distant sunlight, tethered to the gas giant by colossal magnetic umbilicals. For the crew of the Odyssey, returning from the silent depths of the Kuiper Belt, it felt like crashing into a cacophony of light and life. But beneath the station's bustling facade, an undercurrent of tension spread from the moment the Odyssey, running dark and adhering to strict clandestine approach vectors, slipped into a restricted military drydock.
Code Epiphany.
The message had rippled through the highest echelons of the Sol Federation Command, triggering protocols dormant for decades. A discovery warranting immediate council review, something beyond resource finds or navigational hazards.
Someting Ota.
Captain Eva Rostova, Dr. Eris Thorn, Security Chief Jax, and Chief Engineer Lena Petrova found themselves escorted not to a standard debriefing room, but to the station's command core, deep within its most secure sector. The airlock hissed shut behind them, sealing them in a stark, circular chamber dominated by a holographic display table. Around it sat the figures who held the reins of human power in the outer system: Admiral Sergei Volkov, stern-faced commander of the Jovian fleet; Director Arishta Sharma, head of the Xenological Studies Institute, her sharp eyes missing nothing; and Counselor Jian Li, representing the civilian governance of the outer colonies. Ether's core consciousness had also been temporarily transferred, its presence indicated by a cool blue light emanating from the table's center. Captain Rostova, Admiral Volkov began, his voice a low rumble that tolerated no ambiguity. Your message precipitated considerable anticipation. Report. Eva stepped forward, posture rigid, the weight of her discovery pressing down. Admiral, counselors. 3 weeks ago, standard operational time, the Odyssey detected an anomaly in the Kuiper Belt, designated KBO 7734 Alpha. Initial scans indicated an artificial structure of immense size and unknown origin. She activated her datapad, projecting the Odyssey's sensor logs onto the holographic table.
Images of the black, broken behemoth materialized, silencing the room. Wie designartet it, the Nexus?
It appeared derelict, ancient, with minimal power readings localized deep within. Eva recounted the approach, the drone scans, the decision to send an away team. Then, Jax took over, detailing the boarding, the alien architecture, the non-Euclidean geometry, the absence of biological remains, and the discovery of the central core chamber. Lena supplemented his report with telemetry data, showing the energy readings, the strange materials, and the near-catastrophic power drain the Odyssey experienced. Finally, it was Eris Thorn's turn. He seemed almost feverish, his usual awkwardness replaced by the intensity of someone holding truths too vast for easy comprehension. The core. It wasn't just a power source. It was a consciousness matrix. The energy patterns. They were the inhabitants. He brought up the fragmented data streams recovered from the Nexus, swirling fractal patterns and complex energy waveforms filling the holographic display. We established rudimentary contact. They called themselves the Cygnans. This vessel wasn't merely a ship, it was an ark designed to preserve their consciousness indefinitely. They faced an extinction-level event, something they termed the Great Filter. Their solution was transcendence. Uploading their minds, billions of them, into this vessel's data stream, abandoning biological form entirely. Director Sharma leaned forward, captivated.
Transcendence?
Physical consciousness uploaded into a machine matrix? The theoretical basis exists, but the scale. They achieved it, Thorn stated flatly. The damage to the vessel wasn't external attack. It was internal conflict during the process. Not all Cygnans agreed with the transition. Counselor Lee looked pale. They offered this to you? Eva met his gaze. The core awakened fully upon interacting with our technology and Dr. Thorne's attempts to interface. It communicated directly, non-electromagnetically. It analyzed us. It offered us the same choice, to join the Matrix, to be preserved before the filter reached us. Admiral Volkov slammed a fist onto the table's edge.
Preserved?
Assimilated is more likely.
This is an Existentialtriad, masquerading as Salvation.
A vessel that can drain power from our ships, communicate telepathically, potentially absorb consciousness? It must be neutralized.
Neutralized.
Thorne exclaimed, aghast. Admiral, this is the single greatest discovery in human history.
Proof of advanced extraterrestrial intelligence, a potential solution to mortality, insight into technology's millennia beyond ours. We can't just destroy it.
Dr. Thorne, Director Sharma interjected calmly, though her eyes gleamed with scientific hunger, the risks are undeniable. A consciousness matrix of this nature, its motives, its stability, are completely unknown. The Cygnans mentioned internal conflict. What if rogue elements exist within that matrix? What if its preservation is a form of consumption? The warning about the Great Filter cannot be ignored either, Counselor Lee added, his voice trembling slightly.
What is it? When is it coming?
The Cygnans implied it was inevitable. Their data is fragmented, Thorne admitted reluctantly. I've barely scratched the surface. But the references suggest a recurring cosmic phenomenon, something that halts the development of spacefaring civilizations. Perhaps a natural event, perhaps something else. I need more time, more data. Requesting more data could mean reawakening the Nexus, Jax stated bluntly. Its reaction escalated rapidly upon contact. Next time, we might not be able to disengage. Its ability to interfere with our systems, even drain power from the Odyssey at range. Technologically, we are outmatched. Lena nodded agreement. The energy dynamics were unlike anything I've ever encountered. It wasn't just drawing power, it was interfacing directly with our core containment fields. A sustained interaction could have overloaded our reactor or, potentially, allowed the Nexus direct access to our systems, including ether. The blue light of ether pulsed slightly. Analysis of residual energy fluctuations and Dr. Thorne's partial data suggests the Cygnan matrix operates on principles involving quantum entanglement and dimensional resonance far exceeding current human theoretical models. Direct interface carries unpredictable, potentially catastrophic risks to both biological minds and AI constructs. The Council fell silent, the weight of the revelation settling upon them. They had proof of aliens, but these aliens were digital ghosts in a machine arc, offering dubious immortality while warning of cosmic doom. We cannot reveal this, Counselor Lee stated firmly.
Not yet.
Public knowledge would cause mass panic, societal upheaval. Agreed, Volkov grunted. This remains classified at the highest level. Alpha Zero protocols are now in effect for all personnel involved and all related data. He turned to Eva. Captain Rostova, you and your primary crew Thorne, Jax, Petrova, are hereby grounded, pending further review. You will be confined to Jupiter Station under observation. Your ship AI, Ether, will undergo deep system diagnostics. Eva bristled but kept her composure. Admiral, my crew performed exceptionally under extreme circumstances.
Wie brucht Beck invaluable Intelligenz?
Intelligence that paints a target on humanity's back, Captain. Volkov retorted. Or offers it a poison chalice. We need time to analyze, to understand what you've found before we decide the next move.
Director Sharma reiset a hand. I propose the immediate formation of a dedicated, covered research initiative, Project Echo.
We assemble our best minds, physicists, xenologists, AI specialists, strategists, to analyze Dr. Thorne's data in isolation. Dr. Thorne's participation will be crucial, under strict supervision. Supervised, Director? Thorne protested.
I need resources, access.
You will have them, Doctor, Sharma assured him, within a secure framework. We cannot risk uncontrolled interaction with this.
Cygnan data.
Volkov nodded. Project Echo is authorized. Director Sharma will oversee the scientific aspects. My office will handle security and containment. Counselor Lee will ensure political discretion. He looked back at Eva. The Nexus location is now a restricted zone. No unauthorized approach. The Odyssey will be sealed in dry dock.
Eva fällt Asche.
Grounded. Confined. Her ship impounded. Yet, she understood the necessity. The knowledge they carried was too potent, too dangerous to handle rashly. Understood, Admiral, Eva replied, her voice level. The meeting concluded. Rostova, Thorne, Jax and Lena were escorted to secure quarters, effectively gilded cages within the vast station. The Odyssey sat silent in its dry dock, the secrets of the Nexus locked within its encrypted logs and Ether's isolated core. Days turned into weeks. Project Echo was established in a hidden sector of the station, a labyrinth of labs and analysis suites shielded against any conceivable intrusion, physical or digital. Thorne threw himself into the work, collaborating with brilliant but cautious scientists, chafing under the security restrictions but driven by the Cygnan puzzle. He deciphered fragments, star charts hinting at the Cygnan homeworld's location near Cygnus X1, glimpses of their biology before transcendence, cryptic references to earlier species that had faced the filter and failed. The filter remained elusive, described only in metaphorical terms, a great silence, a narrow gate, an event horizon for life. Eva endured the confinement, undergoing endless psychological evaluations and strategic debriefings. She replayed the encounter in her mind, questioning her decisions, haunted by the alien voice in her head and the ghosts of the Icarus. Had she doomed humanity by running? Or saved it from assimilation? Jax oversaw security protocols for Project Echo from his quarters, paranoid about leaks or potential Cygnan influence emanating from the data itself. Lena worked with station engineers, providing insights into the Nexus's energy systems, trying to understand the threat and potential vulnerabilities.
The knowledge of the Nexus simmered beneath the surface of Jupiter Station's orderly existence.
A handful of humans knew that humanity stood at a precipice, facing a universe far older, stranger, and potentially more predatory than imagined.
Out in the cold darkness of the Kuiper Belt, the Nexus drifted, a silent arc of digital ghosts, waiting.
And somewhere, sometime, the great filter loomed, an unknown deadline for a species that had just learned it was profoundly, terrifyingly, not alone. The whispers of revelation had arrived, but the full message remained shrouded in cosmic static and alien code. 6 months dissolved into the monotonous routine of Jupiter station time. 6 months of gilded cages, classified briefings, and the ever-present, unspoken weight of the Nexus.
Project Echo burrowed deeper into the Cygnan data, a mole chasing whispers in a mountain of alien code.
Progress was measured in frustrating increments. They confirmed the Cygnans were masters of energy manipulation and data processing on a quantum level, but the core principles remained stubbornly opaque. The nature of the Great Filter was debated endlessly: gamma-ray bursts, self-replicating hostile probes, societal collapse inherent to advanced civilizations, even a fundamental law of physics preventing interstellar proliferation. Theories bloomed and withered under scrutiny, leaving only uncertainty.
For Captain Eva Rostova, the confinement chafed like ill-fitting armor.
Stripped of her command, subjected to endless psych evaluations designed to gauge her stability after the encounter, she felt like a specimen under glass. She attended Project Echo briefings, listening to fractional updates, growing increasingly uneasy with the direction, or lack thereof, the project was taking. Admiral Volkov, haunted by the specter of the filter and the Nexus's demonstrated power, argued persistently for preemptive measures. His faction advocated for developing targeted energy weapons based on Lena's analysis of the Odyssey's encounter, and for sending heavily armed drone fleets to probe the Nexus exclusion zone, actions Director Sharma vehemently opposed as reckless provocation. Admiral, Sharma argued during one heated holographic meeting, we are dealing with consciousness, potentially billions of them, existing in a state we barely comprehend. Firing weapons or sending aggressive probes could be misinterpreted catastrophically. We risk uniting them against us, or worse, triggering a response we cannot possibly handle. And doing nothing risks annihilation by this filter. Volkov countered, his image flickering with controlled anger. The Cygnans fled something. Sitting idle while it potentially bears down on us is negligence. Eva watched them, her distrust growing. They were treating the Nexus data like a conventional problem, either a weapon to be neutralized or a resource to be exploited. Neither seemed right. Eris Thorn, meanwhile, thrived in the intellectual crucible of Project Echo, albeit under Sharma's watchful eye. The Cygnan data was his entire world. He worked relentlessly, his eyes shadowed, fueled by stimulants and obsession. He rarely interacted with his former crewmates, consumed by the intricate beauty and terrifying implications of the alien code. Then, he found something. He requested an emergency meeting with Rostova, Jax and Lena in their secure common area, bypassing official channels. A minor breach of protocol that spoke volumes. When they gathered, Thorn looked almost incandescent, his hands trembling as he activated a personal, shielded datapad. "I found it," he whispered, projecting a complex, shimmering data schematic. Not the filter itself, but a pattern. A recurring variable deep within the Nexus core programming, cross-referenced with their fragmented astronomical logs. He highlighted sections of the code. It correlates with periods of intense galactic core activity, specifically synchronized bursts of exotic particle radiation emanating from Sagittarius A star. The Cygnan transcendence event aligns perfectly with the last major predicted burst cycle, approximately 50,000 years ago. Galactic core bursts? Lena asked, leaning closer. They're powerful, but usually localized or dissipated over interstellar distances. Not these, Thorn insisted. The Cygnan data suggests these are different. Higher dimensional, perhaps? Capable of disrupting complex organic chemistry and sophisticated electronics across vast swathes of the galaxy. A sterilization wave. That's the filter, a recurring, natural, galactic-scale extinction event. Jax frowned. If it's natural, why the secrecy in their data? Why the metaphorical language? Perhaps translation limitations, Thorn shrugged, though a flicker of doubt crossed his face. Or perhaps it triggers something else? The data is still incomplete. But the correlation? It's too strong to ignore. And Eva. He looked directly at Rostova. According to their predictive models, based on galactic rotation and core activity, the next major burst cycle is due. Not in millennia. Within the next 50 to 100 years.
A heavy Selengse fell. 50 years. A cosmic eye blink.
Does Volkov know? Eva asked quietly.
Torne hesitated.
I reported the raw data correlation to Sharma. Not the interpretation. Not the timeline projection. They'll see it eventually, but... Eva, they're talking about weaponizing this. Volkov wants to study the Nexus core as a potential shield, or worse, adapt its energy properties for offense. He sees this as justification for aggression. He's not entirely wrong, Jax said grimly. If a galactic wave is coming, hiding isn't an option. We need defenses. Defenses based on technology we don't understand? Lena countered. Defenses derived from a consciousness matrix that tried to absorb us? What if interacting with the core to build a shield is the trap? Eva felt the ground shifting beneath her.
Torne's discovery, if true, shanget everiting.
But his withholding of the interpretation, his clear fear of Volkov's reaction. It fractured the already strained unity. The situation escalated 2 weeks later. An alarm blared through the Project Echo sector. Not a station-wide alert, but a localized containment breach. Reports filtered through security channels. A junior xenolinguist, working on deciphering Cygnan societal logs under Thorn's supervision, had suffered a complete psychotic breakdown. He was found catatonic, muttering incomprehensibly about the silent chorus, and joining the data stream, his neural interface fused, emitting faint, anomalous energy patterns mirroring those found deep within the Nexus code. Director Sharma immediately locked down Thorn's specific research section, citing protocol and safety. Volkov used the incident as leverage, demanding military control over Project Echo, claiming scientific methods were proving dangerously inadequate. Eva knew she couldn't wait for the politicians and military to decide humanity's fate based on fear and fragmented data. She needed the truth. And she needed her ship. She contacted Jax and Lena through encrypted, non-station channels. Old Odyssey back-alleys Ether had helped establish long ago. Meeting.
My quarters.
0200. Bring secured gear. Under the station's artificial night cycle, they convened.
Eva light out her fears.
Project Echo is fracturing. Volkov wants weapons, Sharma is paralyzed by caution, and Thorn. Thorn is brilliant, but he's too close, maybe too compromised by the data. That incident with the linguist wasn't random. And this filter timeline. We can't rely on them to act rationally or cohesively. What are you proposing, Captain? Jax asked, his hand resting near the concealed sidearm he never went without. We need the full picture.
Thorn is holding back, maybe unknowingly.
The answers aren't just in the data fragments Project Echo has, they're in the source.
The Nexus itself.
Lena looked horrified.
Go back, Tere?
After what happened? Not necessarily Doc, Eva clarified. But observe. Closely. With our ship, our sensors, our AI, untainted by Project Echo's internal conflicts and potential data corruption. Ether detected subtle communication attempts from the data fragments during diagnostics last month. Attempts Sharma dismissed as residual noise. I don't think it was noise.
Regaining control of the Odyssey.
Jax mused. Drydock security is military grade. Ether's core is isolated.
It's borderline impossible.
Ether, Eva said, glancing at a small, inert comm device on her table. Its core is isolated, but not its memory buffers. Before the transfer, I initiated a deep state backup of its core heuristics and operational protocols, including contingency command overrides, hidden within the Odyssey's tertiary systems. Lena's eyes widened.
The Cerberus partition?
Captain, that's highly illegal emergency protocol. Desperate times, Lena, Eva replied grimly. If we can get aboard, access the partition, and reinitialize Ether under my command authority, we can bypass the station lockdown. Ether can handle the undocking remotely. Getting aboard is the crux, Jax stated. That drydock is Volkov's territory. Which is why we won't go through the front door, Eva said, a glint of her old command authority returning.
Lena, you know the stations meinten angse conduits and power junctions beta tan anione.
Jax, you know security blind spots and patrol schedules. We need a plan to get to the Odyssey undetected, within the next 48 hours, before Volkov potentially tightens his grip further or Sharma locks Thorn's data down completely. She looked at her two officers, her most trusted crew. This is treasonous. If we're caught, it's the end of our careers, possibly worse. But if Thorn is right about the timeline, and if the powers that be fumble this, it could be the end of everything.
Are you with me?
Lena took a deep breath, her pragmatism warring with loyalty. The Odyssey deserves better than to rust in dock. And we deserve the truth. I'm in.
Jax gave a kort note.
Someone needs to keep an eye on the abyss. Better us than the bureaucrats or the trigger-happy. I'm in. Eva felt a surge of fierce pride and cold determination. All right. Let's go over the station schematics. We're taking back our ship. In his isolated lab, Thorn stared at the Cygnan code, unaware of the plot brewing. He sensed Eva's growing distance, Volkov's impatience, Sharma's fear. But the data whispered promises of understanding, of survival, of patterns hidden within the cosmic static. He felt the faint, persistent echo of the Nexus in the back of his mind, a siren song of knowledge he couldn't ignore, pulling him deeper into the fractured silence. The race against the filter had begun, but now, a second, internal race was underway, a race for control of the truth. The bowels of Jupiter Station were a labyrinth forgotten by the uniformed officers and civilian traffic humming through its brightly lit main corridors. Here, amidst humming power conduits, resonating structural supports, and the stale scent of recycled air and machine oil, Eva Rostova, Jax, and Lena Petrova moved like shadows. Dressed in dark station maintenance overalls acquired through Jax's less-than-official contacts, they navigated service tunnels barely wide enough to accommodate a single person, guided by Lena's deep knowledge of the station's hidden anatomy projected onto their helmet visors. Every clank of their magnetic boots on the metal grating, every distant rumble of the station's machinery, amplified the tension. Jax led, his movements economical and precise, pausing at junctions, scanning with a handheld sensor array for pressure plates, laser grids, and audio pickups. Lena followed, occasionally stopping to interface her datapad with junction boxes, rerouting sensor feeds or creating temporary blind spots in security coverage. Small, transient anomalies easily lost in the station's background noise. Eva brought up the rear, her mind racing, weighing the colossal gamble they were taking. Treason. Mutiny. But also, perhaps, salvation. Pressure sensor array ahead, Jax whispered, his voice tight over their private comm channel.
Standard sweep pattern. Lena, can you loop it?
Lena's fingers flew across her datapad. Working. Pattern is complex, military grade. Got it. 5-second loop initiated. Move now. They slipped past the deactivated sensor field, hearts pounding. Hours crawled by in near silence, punctuated only by their hushed commands and the station's own mechanical heartbeat. Finally, they reached their destination, Service Conduit 7 Gamma, running directly adjacent to Military Drydock Delta, where the Odyssey sat cold and captive. Heat and acoustic sensors are dense here, Jax reported, studying his scanner. Regular security patrol, Sector 4, due in 12 minutes. We need to cut through the bulkhead fast. Lena produced a plasma torch, its focused beam surprisingly quiet as it bit into the reinforced plating separating the service conduit from the drydock umbilical access chamber. Metal glowed, then yielded. Jax quickly neutralized the internal chamber sensors before swinging the cut section aside. They slipped through into the dimly lit access space, filled with thick power cables and data conduits snaking towards the dormant ship. The Odyssey loomed beyond the reinforced transparasteel viewport, impossibly large even in the cavernous drydock, its familiar lines obscured by docking clamps and support structures. It looked wounded, powerless. Docking clamps have independent power feeds and pressure locks, Lena murmured, already jacking her datapad into an umbilical interface.
Bypassing station control.
Tricking the pressure sensors to read nominal. This is delicate. While Lena worked, Jax disabled the local surveillance cameras, replacing their feed with looped footage. Eva moved towards an emergency access hatch on the Odyssey's ventral side, a manual release hidden behind a maintenance panel. Her hands, steady throughout the infiltration, trembled slightly as she keyed in the override sequence, a code known only to her and her chief engineer. With a faint hiss of escaping residual atmosphere, the hatch cracked open. Cold, stale air washed over them. They were in. The ship was dark, utterly silent save for the low hum of emergency life support maintaining minimal pressure and temperature. Their helmet lights cut sharp beams through the familiar corridors, now rendered alien by the lack of light and activity. They moved quickly towards the auxiliary bridge, a smaller command center deep within the ship, less monitored than the main bridge and closer to the hardware housing Ether's Cerberus partition. Eva slid into the auxiliary command chair, the worn material a familiar comfort despite the circumstances. She accessed a shielded terminal, bypassing the standard login protocols frozen by the military lockdown. Her fingers flew across the interface, inputting the complex authorization keys for the Cerberus partition. Warning: unauthorized access detected.
Alpha Zero lockdown in Fest.
Initiating system alert.
Red lights flashed on the console. Lena.
Stall the alert signal. Eva snapped. Lena, jacked into the ship's internal network node nearby, grunted with effort.
Buoying you time, rerouting alert packet. Looping internal diagnostics.
Come on, Ether. Eva ignored the flashing warnings, inputting the final Cerberus command string. Execute heuristic reinitialization, Rostova _command_prime. The console went dark for a heart-stopping moment.
It flickered back to life, displaying the familiar deep blue interface of the Odyssey's EGI.
Ether core heuristics reinitialized via Cerberus protocol, the smooth, synthesized voice stated, filling the silence of the auxiliary bridge. Command authority recognized, Captain Eva Rostova.
Query: System status abnormal.
Multiple external lockdowns detected. Requesting situational analysis. Eva allowed herself a fraction of a second of relief. Ether, it's good to have you back.
We are executing emergency contingency plan Omega-7.
Full stealth protocols. Prepare the ship for immediate, silent undocking and departure. Bypass external commands and surveillance. Acknowledged, Captain. Analyzing external security network. Military protocols detected. Significant risk of detection. Initiating countermeasures.
Bringing Essentialsystems online unter Minimal-Power-Signature.
On the engineering console, Lena sighed in relief. He's in. Ether is shielding our activity. Docking clamps are overridden locally.
Power umbilicals retracting.
Jax, monitoring external feeds relayed by Ether, suddenly stiffened. Patrol shift change at drydock entrance. They're running 5 minutes early. And, getting faint energy readings from the dock master console. Someone might have noticed the umbilical power fluctuation. Ether, time estimate to clear dock? Eva asked urgently. Maneuvering thrusters charged. Primary fusion core initiating cold start sequence.
3 minutes for minimal drive capability.
External dock doors require sequence authorization. Bypassing now.
Too long, Jax muttered.
They'll be at the internal viewport by then. Create a diversion, Eva ordered. Ether, trigger a minor coolant leak alarm in service conduit 9 Alpha, opposite side of the station ring from here. Log it as an automated system fault. Executing. Coolant pressure alert triggered and logged. Almost immediately, Jax reported renewed chatter on security frequencies.
Tere diverting the patrol.
Alert logged as minor mechanical fault. It bought us time. The massive drydock doors began to slide open with agonizing slowness and near silence, Ether having overridden the usual klaxons and warning lights. Lena confirmed the last docking clamp had retracted. Thrusters active, Ether reported. Maneuvering clear of docking structure. Slowly, silently, the Odyssey drifted out of its berth, a ghost escaping its tomb. Ether navigated with masterful precision, using the station's structure and the predictable patterns of minor debris as cover, sliding through sensor blind spots Lena had identified. Meanwhile, in the brightly lit, sterile confines of Project Echo, Dr. Eris Thorne frowned at his console. A stream of Cygnan data, supposedly inert, flickered with an almost imperceptible anomaly. A resonance pattern that briefly spiked, then vanished. It felt familiar. Like the echo of Ether's core signature. Impossible, of course. Ether was offline, isolated. He dismissed it as sensor noise, turning back to the cryptic symbols hinting at the filter's true nature. But a seed of unease was planted. Clear of Jupiter Station's immediate sensor range, the Odyssey pivoted smoothly in the darkness. Main drive online, Captain, Ether reported.
Ready for FTL insertion.
Engage, Eva ordered, gripping the arms of the command chair on the main bridge now, the familiar thrum of the ship vibrating through the deck. The stars elongated, then snapped back into focus as the Odyssey slipped into faster-than-light travel, leaving Jupiter and its tangled politics behind. On the viewscreen, the infinite blackness stretched ahead, punctuated by distant points of light. Eva turned to face Jax and Lena, who stood at their stations, their faces illuminated by the console glow, exhaustion warring with adrenaline. They were a skeleton crew, fugitives from the Federation, on a stolen ship, heading towards an ancient alien enigma based on a potentially catastrophic timeline prediction from a possibly compromised scientist. Status report, Eva said, her voice regaining its familiar command tone. All systems green, Lena confirmed. Minimal power fluctuations during startup. No immediate signs of pursuit. Long-range sensors clear, Jax added. We appear to have slipped away clean. Ether, Eva addressed the ever-present AI. Plot course for KBO, 7734 Alpha. Maximum FTL speed, but maintain passive sensor sweeps for any Federation pursuit signatures. Priority 1 is reaching the Nexus undetected. Course laid in, Captain. Estimated arrival, 72 standard hours. 72 hours.
Back to the place where everything shanged.
Back to the silent ark and its digital ghosts. Eva looked at her crew, her friends, who had risked everything on her command. This won't be easy, she said quietly.
Vire on our own.
No backup, no support. Whatever we find out there, we face it alone. Better than facing it blind, Captain, Lena replied, her voice steady. Jax nodded agreement.
We follow your lead, Eva. The Odyssey flew on, a teeny spark of defiance against the vastness, carrying the heavy burden of forbidden knowledge and the desperate hope of finding truth in the echoes of the void.
Behind them, on Jupiter Station, the discovery of their absence was imminent, ready to unleash the full fury of a bewildered and frightened Federation. The fractured silence was about to break into open conflict.
The Discovery hit Jupiter Station Command like a plasma torpedo.
Not with a bang, but with the chilling silence of an empty drydock confirmed by multiple frantic system checks. Drydock Delta was vacant.
The Odyssey was gone.
Admiral Volkov's face, projected holographically into the Emergency Project Echo briefing room, was a thundercloud.
Gone?
A starship doesn't simply vanish from a maximum security military drydock.
How?
Panicked aides presented the evidence: looped sensor feeds, bypassed security protocols, faint residual energy signatures consistent with a stealth departure, the triggered coolant alarm on the far side of the station now revealed as a blatant diversion. The timing coincided perfectly with the shift change Jax had noted.
Rostova, Volkov spät, the Name like Venom.
It had to be Rostova. And Petrova's technical skill, Jax's security knowledge. His eyes narrowed, fixing on Director Sharma. And who else knew the station's vulnerabilities, the ship's hidden systems? Who had the most intimate knowledge of the Odyssey's AI? Before Sharma could react, all eyes turned towards the door as security officers escorted a bewildered Dr. Eris Thorne into the room.
Admiral? Director?
What's happened? Thorne asked, blinking in the harsh emergency lighting. He'd been pulled from his lab mid-analysis. Your former captain has stolen the Odyssey, Doctor, Volkov stated flatly, his voice dangerously low.
Gone rouge.
And we believe you know more about it than you're letting on. Your recent breakthrough regarding galactic core radiation? The timing is convenient. Thorne stared, genuinely stunned.
Eva? Stolen the Odyssey? Why?
Then, the pieces clicked into place. Eva's increasing distrust, her questions about his research, the filter timeline he'd hesitantly shared. She hadn't waited.
She'd gone to the source.
The Nexus, he breathed.
She's gone back to the Nexus.
And you conveniently withheld the full implications of your findings, didn't you?
Volkov accused.
The timeline. You knew they'd run if they thought we only had decades. I withheld my interpretation because I feared exactly this. Thorne shot back, fear replaced by a surge of anger and desperation. Your talk of weaponizing the Nexus, of provoking it. Eva knew you wouldn't listen, that you'd react with aggression. You drove her to this.
Enough.
Sharma intervened, her voice sharp. Admiral, recriminations can wait. Rostova has taken classified data, a Federation starship, and potentially exposed us all by returning to the Nexus unprepared. We need to retrieve her, secure the ship, and contain this disaster. Volkov nodded curtly, his military mind taking over.
Systemwide alert. Designate the Odyssey a rouge fessel, hostile intent unknown.
Priority Alpha intercept orders issued to the cruisers Thunderchild and Valiant. Lock down all outer system comm channels related to deep space anomalies.
Enttorne.
He glared at the scientist.
You will cooperate.
Tell us everything Rostova might know, every theory you discussed, every weakness you perceived in the Nexus. Thorne felt trapped. Cooperating fully meant giving Volkov ammunition, potentially painting Eva as a fanatic and justifying lethal force against the Odyssey. Stonewalling meant obstructing the Federation and possibly allowing Eva to blunder into a catastrophe at the Nexus based on incomplete data. He looked at the Admiral's hard face, then at Sharma's anxious one. He thought of Eva, Jax, Lena, heading back into the belly of the beast because they didn't trust the people in this room. I will provide my analysis of the Nexus's potential capabilities and vulnerabilities based on the data, Thorne said carefully, choosing his words. And I will reiterate my warnings about aggressive engagement. Rostova isn't hostile, she's searching for truth, something Project Echo has failed to prioritize over political maneuvering. He wouldn't betray Eva's destination, they already knew, but he wouldn't help them hunt her down either. He would give them science, not strategy. Volkov seemed momentarily placated, needing Thorne's knowledge. See that you do, Doctor. You are confined to Project Echo, under guard. As Thorne was led away, the weight of his decision settled. He had bought time, perhaps, but for whom? And at what cost? He needed to understand more, faster. Maybe there was something in the Cygnan data, a way to communicate, to warn Eva, or even to understand what she would face when she arrived. Aboard the speeding Odyssey, the 3 days of FTL travel were a blur of focused activity. The vastness outside was a constant reminder of their isolation. Pursuit was expected. Eva spent hours on the auxiliary bridge with Ether, reviewing every scrap of data from their first encounter, looking for patterns missed, analyzing the Cygnan voice, trying to formulate a non-confrontational approach strategy. How do you talk to a billion digital ghosts without triggering their ancient trauma or their assimilation protocols? Lena worked tirelessly in engineering, running simulations, trying to devise frequency dampeners or energy shields specifically tuned against the Nexus core's observed output. It's like trying to build a firewall against logic itself, she muttered to Jax during a brief break, rubbing her temples. Their tech doesn't just transmit energy, it resonates with consciousness. Jax maintained peak readiness, running drills with the ship's internal defenses, automated turrets, emergency bulkheads. He treated the Nexus not as a mystery to be solved, but as hostile territory. He meticulously reviewed the helmet cam footage from their first boarding, mapping corridors, noting structural weaknesses near the core chamber, planning potential fallback points or sabotage options if things went wrong. He also kept a constant, wary eye on their wake, scanning for the telltale energy signatures of pursuing Federation cruisers. Ether, meanwhile, worked silently in the background. Besides managing the ship and scanning, it delved deeper into its own core programming, accessing the hidden layers of the Cerberus partition. It discovered diagnostic subroutines and observational protocols embedded by its original designers. Protocols intended to passively analyze and learn from extreme anomaly encounters, like the Nexus. It began cross-referencing the Cygnan data fragments from Project Echo, which Eva had copied before fleeing, with the faint, residual energy patterns recorded during the Odyssey's initial escape from the Nexus field. Subtle correlations emerged, patterns invisible to human analysis or the segregated systems of Project Echo. Captain, Ether reported on the third day, its synthesized voice calm but carrying an undertone Eva had learned to recognize as significant. Analysis of residual quantum entanglement signatures from our previous encounter, correlated with Project Echo data fragments, suggests non-uniformity within the Nexus core matrix.
Non-uniformity.
Eva asked, leaning forward.
Meaning what?
Damage. Unlikely damage in the conventional sense, Captain. The patterns suggest distinct resonance clusters within the core's collective consciousness. Factions, perhaps? Or differentiated functional states. The internal conflict, the Cygnans mentioned, may not be entirely resolved or relegated to the past. Factions within the ghost matrix? The idea was staggering. Could we communicate with one faction without alerting the whole? Theoretically possible, but extremely high risk. Identifying and isolating a specific resonance signature without triggering a collective response would require unprecedented finesse and carries unknown variables. Before Eva could process the implications, Jax called out from tactical. Captain. Dropping out of FTL in 5 minutes.
Approaching Nexus exclusion zone limits. Long-range sensors picking up, zooming.
On screen, Eva commanded. The main view screen shimmered, displaying sensor telemetry from the Kuiper Belt object KBO 7734 Alpha. The massive, dark shape of the Nexus was there, silent and vast as they remembered. But something was different. Energy readings, Lena reported, her voice tight with concentration. The core signature is fluctuating. Not stronger, but exhibiting a rhythmic pulse that wasn't there before.
Low frequency, almost like a heartbeat.
And look at this, Jax added, highlighting a section of the Nexus hull near the core. Thermal imaging shows a faint, localized temperature increase. -180 Celsius, still incredibly cold, but significantly warmer than the surrounding hull. Near the area where Dr. Thorne reported deciphering the wall carvings, Ether overlaid its analysis. The energy pulse pattern correlates weakly with certain Cygnan linguistic structures deciphered by Dr. Thorne, specifically patterns associated with awakening or initiation. The thermal anomaly suggests localized energy transfer or processing. The Odyssey drifted in the blackness, its crew staring at the viewscreen. They had returned to the silent ark, but it wasn't sleeping anymore. Something inside had stirred. Whether it was waking up, processing their previous visit, reacting to Thorne's distant analysis, or preparing for the filter, they didn't know. "Take us in slowly, Ether," Eva ordered, her voice steady despite the tremor she felt inside.
Maximum stiehlt.
Let's see what kind of ghosts are waiting for us this time. The chase was behind them for now. The real encounter was about to begin.